Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the mysterious errors that can turn something as ordinary as a penny into a collector's dream worth an unbelievable fortune. And in this episode we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 1995 1-cent piece, also known as the Lincoln cent. A coin that has become legendary among numismatists, collectors, and treasure hunters because of the possibility that certain examples of it can reach values soaring into the hundreds of thousands and even potentially $1 million. And this is not some far-fetched myth or casual exaggeration, it is rooted in the fascinating details of minting errors, historical circumstances, mechanical mistakes, doubled dies, strike anomalies, and the overall allure of scarcity. So buckle up as we explore every angle of why this tiny coin minted in Denver in 1995 is so extraordinary, and why a coin that most people would overlook as a common piece of pocket change could in fact be a life-changing discovery if found in the right condition with the right attributes. And let us begin by recalling that the 1995 Lincoln cent comes from a period in U.S. mint history when billions of coins were being produced annually, with the Philadelphia and Denver mints working around the clock to meet demand. Which means quality control sometimes slipped, dies were overused, and the possibility of errors increased dramatically, and among the most famous varieties of 1995 is the double die obverse that shows dramatic doubling on the inscriptions, particularly visible on the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust, creating a bold appearance that immediately captures the eye of a collector. And while the most famous version of the double die comes from the Philadelphia Mint, there are rare Denver Mint strikes as well that show fascinating anomalies, and when such errors combine with pristine preservation, full red luster, sharp detail, and rarity, the price can soar to astronomical levels, and the allure of the 1995 cent lies not only in the possibility of doubled dies but also in strike-through errors, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, broad strikes, and repunched mint marks, all of which can transform a humble 1-cent piece into a unique and highly desirable numismatic treasure. And it is worth remembering that collectors are not just paying for the intrinsic copper-plated zinc content of these coins, they are paying for the story, the rarity, the beauty, and the chance to own something few others can ever hope to possess. And that is why when a spectacular era coin emerges, auction prices can climb into 6 and even 7 figures. And in the case of the 1995 cent, we see how the combination of historical fame, era potential, and collector demand creates the perfect storm for huge value. And now imagine holding such a coin in your hand, one that at first glance looks like an ordinary penny, worn, familiar, and overlooked by millions, yet upon closer inspection reveals that magical doubling on the letters or an extraordinary minting flaw that immediately tells the trained eye that this is no ordinary cent. And that feeling of discovering treasure in the most unlikely of places is what keeps collectors passionate and engaged, searching through rolls of pennies, bags from the bank, or old jars tucked away in attics, hoping to uncover a hidden gem. And in fact there have been stories of people finding rare 1995 double die cents in circulation decades after minting, coins that had been sitting quietly for years until someone noticed the distinctive errors. And while many 1995 double die cents from Philadelphia have been documented, the Denver Mint varieties and errors are much scarcer. Meaning if you come across a 1995 D with a strong anomaly, you could be holding something that pushes into the realm of life changing money. And to fully understand why these errors are so valuable, let us dive into how coins are struck at the mint, where dies are engraved with designs and then used under immense pressure to strike blank planchets, and when dies are misaligned, or improperly prepared, or when multiple impressions are not perfectly registered, doubling can occur, creating what we call a doubled die. And these doubled dies are not the same as mechanical doubling caused by die bounce, rather they are created during the hubbing process itself, which makes them true errors of design transfer, highly prized by collectors. And in 1995 this phenomenon produced some of the boldest doubled dies of the Lincoln cent series, causing a sensation in the hobby and drawing mainstream media attention at the time. And while the Philadelphia version remains more widely known, the Denver version, when it appears, is like lightning in a bottle, an almost mythical rarity, and beyond the double dies there are other errors that can catapult a 1995 descent to staggering values, such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not seated correctly in the press, and the more dramatic the off-center, especially if it shows a clear date and mint mark, the higher the value, or die caps where the coin sticks to a die and continues to strike other coins, creating a bizarre domed shape, or broad strikes without a collar producing an expanded flan, or coins struck on the wrong planchet altogether, such as a cent accidentally struck on a dime planchet, creating an undersized and extremely rare error that would immediately fetch thousands at auction. And when such errors occur on a key year like 1995 with its double die fame, the market goes wild, because collectors love the crossover of famous dates with dramatic mistakes. And this is why discussions of the 1995 descent sometimes elevate its value into the $1 million range, because a unique, dramatic, one-of-a-kind specimen with bold doubling, perfect red luster, and perhaps an additional error like a misaligned die strike could well bring an unprecedented sum if two or more wealthy collectors decided they had to own it, and that is the magic of numismatics, where rarity, desire, and competition converge to produce record-breaking results. And as we explore this story, we also appreciate the cultural fascination with pennies in general, because the Lincoln cent is the longest-running coin design in American history, beloved by generations, familiar to every pocket, yet hiding incredible rarities within its long mintage history, from the famous 1909 SVDB to the 1955 double die, from the 1969 S double die to the 1983 double die reverse, and of course the legendary 1992 close AM and wide AM varieties, all of which make the Lincoln cent series a playground for collectors and a hunting ground for treasures. And the 1995 D fits squarely into this tradition, offering hope that one more coin in circulation, one more overlooked penny in a drawer, could turn out to be the golden ticket. And for many collectors, the thrill of the hunt is as rewarding as the financial value, the idea that you can still find a $1 million rarity in your change, that the U.S. Mint, with all its technology and oversight, is still fallible enough to let mistakes slip through, mistakes that end up in your pocket. And when you stop to think about it, that is almost magical, because it connects ordinary people with extraordinary stories. And so when we talk about the 1995 D1 cent being worth $1 million, we are not just discussing metal and minting, we are discussing the romance of collecting, the joy of discovery, the passion of history, and the relentless pursuit of something rare, unique, and valuable. And we can imagine collectors carefully examining coins under magnification, their hearts racing when they spot telltale doubling on the letters, their excitement mounting as they realize they may be holding something extraordinary, and from there the coin might travel to a grading service like PCGS or NGC, where experts authenticate it, assign it a grade, and encapsulate it, further fueling demand, because once a coin is certified as a genuine error in high grade, the auction world takes notice, and bidding wars can erupt, propelling the coin into price territory that would have seemed unthinkable for a penny, and in that moment the little copper-plated coin that once jingled unnoticed in pockets becomes a star, a prize, and in some cases a $1 million masterpiece. And this story continues to inspire new collectors, reminding them that treasure can still be found, and that is why the legend of the 1995 descent lives on. Thank you for staying tuned as we continue this incredible exploration of the hidden treasures in the world of coins. And if the story of the 1995 D1 cent blew your mind with its $1 million potential, wait until you hear the legend of the 1964 D Lincoln cent, a coin that has fascinated collectors for decades because of its rare and dramatic errors, its historical context, and the astonishing fact that under the right circumstances certain examples of it can command values reaching for $1 million or even more. And to understand why a humble penny struck at the Denver Mint in 1964 could soar to such astronomical heights, we need to take a journey back into the mid-1960s when the United States was experiencing a coin shortage, when silver coinage was being hoarded due to rising metal values, and when the mint was under intense pressure to churn out billions of coins to satisfy commerce. A climate that inevitably led to lapses in quality control, rushed production, and the unintentional creation of errors that today make the numismatic world buzz with excitement. And while at first glance the 1964 descent seems like a common issue, with well over a billion produced, the truth is that buried within that mountain of production are rare anomalies and mistakes that completely change the narrative, because collectors have uncovered specimens with doubled dies, repunched mint marks, broad strikes, off-center strikes, and even wrong planchet errors, each one magnifying rarity and value, and when these errors intersect with pristine condition, full red luster, sharp strike, and eye appeal, the coin suddenly transforms from an ordinary penny into a treasure worth millions. And that is why the 1964 D Lincoln cent has achieved legendary status among collectors, for not only do error examples exist but the very year carries historical significance. As the mint was transitioning policies, preparing for the removal of silver from circulating coins, and struggling to cope with enormous demand, which makes 1964 coins an intriguing study for historians as well as collectors, and when you add in the Denver Mint's own quirks, including its long history of repunched mint marks and overused dies, you get the perfect storm for collectible anomalies. And imagine holding in your hand a 1964 D penny that looks slightly off. Maybe the mint mark appears doubled or misplaced. Maybe the design shows strong doubling on liberty, or I in God we trust. Maybe the coin is struck dramatically off-center with the full date still visible, or perhaps it was struck on a dime planchet creating a lightweight cent with missing design elements. Any of these errors alone could make the coin worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, but when you consider the potential of a spectacular, unique error combined with the right grade and the right market, suddenly we are talking millions. And auction records prove that wealthy collectors will stop at nothing to acquire once in a lifetime pieces, paying sums that defy imagination, and this is why whispers of the 1964 descent reaching $4 million are not just fanciful stories, they are a reflection of the real dynamics of rarity, desire, and competition in numismatics. Because a coin is ultimately worth what someone is willing to pay for it, and when two or more deep-pocketed collectors clash in pursuit of a unique treasure, price ceilings shatter, and records are set, and the 1964 descent with its reputation for dramatic errors and extreme rarity in certain forms sits right at the heart of this phenomenon, and to make it even more exciting, millions of these pennies are still out there in circulation, in old jars, in bank boxes, tucked away in drawers, which means that one of you watching right now could stumble upon a life-changing discovery just by carefully checking your change. And that possibility is what fuels the passion of coin roll hunters and collectors everywhere, the knowledge that treasure might still be hiding in plain sight. And while most 1964 descents are common and worth only face value, the handful that show spectacular mistakes are the diamonds in the rough, the $4 million wonders that electrify the collecting world. And it is fascinating to consider the mechanics of how such errors happened, whether a misaligned die caused a doubled image, whether a mint worker accidentally punched the D mint mark multiple times creating an RPM, whether a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin found its way into the presses, or whether striking pressure and die were created anomalies that today serve as tickets to fortune. And every error tells a story, every coin carries a piece of history. And when you combine those stories with the sheer excitement of rarity, the market responds with enthusiasm, and the 1964 descent becomes not just a coin but a legend, a myth, a treasure that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. And the fascination deepens when you consider that in the mid-1960s people were hoarding coins due to fears of silver disappearing. So many 1964 coins were saved, yet only the tiniest fraction carried the dramatic errors we crave, making them hidden needles in a haystack, and collectors worldwide dream of being the lucky one to find such a piece, to submit it for grading, to see it authenticated and certified, and then to watch as bidding wars erupt, driving its price into the millions, and in that moment the little copper coin becomes a symbol of fortune, history, and destiny all rolled into one. And so when we say the 1964 descent can be worth $4 million, we are really talking about the perfect storm of rarity, condition, error type, collector demand, and competitive bidding, all converging into a jaw-dropping price that cements the coin's place in history. And it is this story that keeps the legend alive, inspiring new collectors to join the hunt, to search their pennies with magnifiers, to believe in the possibility of finding treasure where others see only spare change. And that is the magic of numismatics, where the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and the 1964 D1 cent reigns as one of the brightest stars in that constellation. Now we move from the 1995 D1 cent that can soar to $1 million, through the 1964 D-cent that collectors believe can touch the $4 million mark, and now we arrive at another extraordinary and often overlooked gem in the Lincoln cent series, the 1968 D1 cent, a coin that at first seems to be just another common penny from the Denver Mint. With hundreds of millions struck and circulated across the country, yet beneath its ordinary exterior lies the potential for incredible fortune, because under certain conditions, with specific errors, varieties, and grades, this coin has been known to be valued at as much as $3 million, making it another shining example of how tiny mistakes at the U.S. Mint can transform pocket change into life-changing treasure. And to understand the mystique of the 1968 D Lincoln cent, we need to step back into the late 1960s. A period of major transition for U.S. coinage, when silver had just been removed from circulating dimes, quarters, and half dollars, when the country was grappling with inflation and heavy coin usage due to economic expansion, and when the Mint, working to satisfy the nation's needs, was striking coins at a breakneck pace, particularly in Denver, where mintmarks had to be hand-punched onto working dies, a practice that often led to dramatic repunched mint marks, misplaced mint marks, and doubled impressions, all of which are collector favorites today, and among the most fascinating varieties of the 1968 D-cent are those with double die obverse, repunched D mintmarks that show 2 or even 3 impressions, and striking errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, die caps, die breaks, and coins struck on the wrong planchet, each of which magnifies rarity, uniqueness, and desirability. And when such a coin surfaces in gem-red condition, preserved as if time has stood still, it becomes an object of incredible value, because collectors know how scarce such pristine survivors are. And they are willing to pay extraordinary sums to own one. And this is why when a truly spectacular 1968 D-cent appears at auction, its value can push far beyond expectations, with serious talk of certain unique era specimens being worth $3 million. And imagine holding such a coin in your hand, a penny minted more than 50 years ago, its copper plating still glowing with red brilliance, its strike revealing a dramatic double die on Liberty, or I in God We Trust, or perhaps a bold RPM where the D mint mark is clearly doubled, or even more spectacular, a wrong planchet strike where the coin is struck on a dime or foreign planchet, leaving an undersized or off-colored appearance that immediately screams rarity. And now picture the excitement of discovering such a coin in an old roll, a forgotten collection, or even in circulation, a find that could literally change your life overnight. And this is the magic that keeps collectors passionate about the Lincoln cent series. Because the thrill of discovery never dies, and while most 1968 D-cents are common and worth a cent or a few dollars in uncirculated condition, the select few with dramatic errors, unique varieties, or top-graded condition become the millionaires of the hobby, commanding jaw-dropping prices and securing their place in numismatic history. And the context of 1968 only deepens the fascination. Because this was the year when mintmarks returned after being absent on 1965 to 1967 coinage due to the Mint's attempt to discourage hoarding, so the presence of the D on the 1968 Lincoln cent became an important marker, and since those mintmarks were still being hand-punched, the opportunity for repunched mintmarks was enormous, giving us a treasure trove of collectible varieties that today drive prices higher and higher. And as with the 1955 doubled die or the 1969 doubled die, collectors crave bold and dramatic examples, and when a 1968 D-cent delivers on that drama, it can rise above the rest, becoming a true legend. And to see why these coins can reach the $3 million mark, we have to remember that coin values are driven not just by rarity but by competition, desire, and the psychology of collectors who want to own something no one else has. And when two determined collectors meet in an auction battle, records can fall, and suddenly a penny that once jingled in pockets is commanding 7 figures. And that is why we can confidently say the 1968 D1 cent has the potential to be worth $3 million, because in the perfect storm of condition, rarity, and collector demand, there is no upper ceiling, only the limits of human passion, and this coin proves once again that treasures are hiding in plain sight, that the humble penny can carry within it the spark of fortune, that the world of numismatics is full of surprises waiting to be uncovered. And so the legend of the 1968 D-cent joins the pantheon of great American rarities, reminding us that history, mistakes, and chance can combine to create something priceless. And as we continue this incredible journey into the world of rare and valuable Lincoln cents, let us not stop at the wonders of the 1995 D, the 1964 D, and the 1968 D, because the story of rare pennies is one of constant discovery, constant fascination, and endless possibilities that fuel collectors with passion and treasure hunters with hope. And the next chapter in our adventure brings us to other years that have proven time and time again that even the smallest coin in circulation can carry within it the weight of fortune. And let us turn our attention first to the legendary 1970s Lincoln cent, a coin that at first glance is nothing extraordinary but which hides within it one of the most famous and dramatic double die obverse in the entire series. A coin where the inscriptions and the date show such bold and obvious doubling that even the untrained eye can see it without magnification. And because of this strong visual appeal, collectors have fought tooth and nail for the best examples, driving prices to astonishing heights, with the finest specimens reaching hundreds of thousands and the possibility of an extreme grade or unique error pairing pushing values into multimillion-dollar territory. And the 1970s also holds intrigue because of small date and large date varieties, each with its own level of rarity, making this year a true collector's puzzle. And when you imagine holding a 1970s double die in your hand, seeing the doubled inscriptions leap out at you, you realize why this coin has captivated the hobby for decades. And from there we move to the 1972 double die obverse, another powerhouse of numismatic fame, where dramatic doubling is seen on Liberty and I In God We Trust, coins that in pristine condition have realized spectacular prices. And though not all 1972 double dies are equal, the strongest variety, known as DDO001, remains one of the most celebrated errors in the Lincoln cent series, with auction prices soaring and collector demand never waning. And once again we see how human error in the die-making process can produce treasures that outlast their time, turning a penny into a fortune. And then we must not forget the 1983 double die reverse, a coin that shows bold doubling on the reverse lettering such as 1 cent and E pluribus unum, a modern rarity that collectors actively hunt. And because this coin comes from the copper-plated zinc era that began in 1982, its survival and high grade is particularly tricky, making top condition examples extremely valuable and capable of soaring into 6 and 7 figures under the right circumstances. And when paired with a spectacular strike or secondary error, even higher values become possible. And beyond that we step into the famous 1992 close AM and wide AM varieties, where tiny differences in the spacing between the letters A and M in America create major rarities. With the 1992 close AM and the 1992 D close AM being some of the most sought-after modern cents, commanding prices into tens of thousands and even pushing further with pristine grades, and then the 1999 wide AM and 1998 wide AM varieties continue the saga, offering collectors more treasures to hunt for in the most ordinary of pocket change, and each one of these discoveries reinforces the same thrilling truth, that the United States Mint, despite its vast machinery and precision, has always been vulnerable to human error, to mechanical slip-ups, to tiny inconsistencies that escape unnoticed into circulation, only to become the holy grails of collectors decades later. And this is why the Lincoln cent series is the single most beloved and studied coin series in America, because it has everything: history, longevity, artistry, symbolism, and most of all, rarity born of mistake. And as we continue this saga we must also highlight the 1969's double die obverse, one of the greatest rarities of the 20th century, where the doubling on the inscriptions is so powerful and dramatic that the coin is unmistakable, and with only a tiny number known, This cent has sold for hundreds of thousands at auction and continues to be valued in the millions for the finest examples, making it one of the key stars of the Lincoln cent series. And in the same breath, we can talk about the famous 1955 double die, the coin that brought double dies into the public spotlight. With its dramatic doubling on Liberty and in God We Trust, making it one of the most famous era coins in U.S. history. A coin that even non-collectors